Hello, welcome back. Hello, I'm Jack McCoy. I am hosting a series on mastering the art of singing, and I'm doing a variety of postings. Volume one, basically intonation. Number two, revert back to number two volume because that is a real key thing into if you're really looking at improving your voice, increasing your range, and strengthening your voice, also as well as getting used to really singing with good intonation, things like that. Volume number two is going to be something I'm going to revert to. And there's a tool I mentioned in there, and just so go back to that. Make sure if you're working on this, that you're going to develop your voice. You're going to listen to number two and start applying those things. Number three, I believe, I touched on a bit about dynamics and breath control. And this is number four. And number four, this is pretty much focusing on diction, also known as, diction. And diction is pretty much mostly, if you really have a desire to sing, probably it's not just about the fact that you like to sing, although that is a really important thing. But if you want to get across what it is you're singing about, the message of it, the words, the meaning, the feeling of it, and everything like that, well, that means somebody else has to understand what it is you're saying. And for me, I didn't really focus on, when I was in voice lessons, diction just kind of was a grown kind of thing. Like, it was just something that kind of had to do. But when I got to the point where I was actually singing in front of people, and I really was enjoying what I was doing, and I really wanted them to understand what I was saying, diction came much more easily to me, and I understood more of the meaning of it. And my real experience is actually while I was attending the School of Opera and Related Arts, which I got some of this good jewels of things I'm learning from you and adapted them to everyday kind of singing, is that I would work as a singing waiter. And honestly, some of my best performing experiences came from being a singing waiter. Now, when you're on a stage and people are all out in the audience, they're all kind of subjected to you and they're sitting there listening to you, and you don't really have to make any connection with the people. You just kind of sing, and if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But when you're a singing waiter, those people are sitting right in front of you, and it's like you kind of get over any fear of singing to people up close front like that, because you can tell they're really interested. They're trying to hear what it is you're saying, and that really kind of make myself grow as a singer, being able to be comfortable with that kind of a setting. And then kind of singing on stage becomes even more easily because you got usually a full orchestra and things like that behind you when you're doing that. So diction, anyway. Let me just use some good examples. I'm not going to always just point these things out myself, but you can hear things, and you've heard things, and maybe didn't understand and put words into it. But in the realm of country music, for example, a singer with really good diction, Reba McEntire. No matter whether you care for her music or her or that kind of thing, no matter, listen to her singing. When you hear her, you understand every little word she says, and she doesn't overdo it. I think you can really overdo diction in that if you start putting every little T and every consonant in it. It comes sounding off just a little too effective. And really the goal you're looking for is to make it as natural as possible. Make singing as natural as an expression as possible. So it's almost like you're having a conversation with people, but it's through song. And that makes it really hit the heart much more faster than if you're over exaggerating the T's and the consonants and things like that. But Reba just gets it out there. She puts it out there. You understand every little thing she's saying. Now, on the other hand, if you want an example for bad diction, God bless you, and I love this guy, Chris Stapleton. I want to understand what he's saying, but sometimes it's all growl to me. It's like, and it's like, I understand he's a singer-songwriter, and you're saying, well, hey, he's successful, and you're not. Absolutely correct. So basically, having good diction doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful to have good diction. But the fact is, as a songwriter, and I know he has the heart of a songwriter, he wants people to understand what he's saying there. But it's just that, he's come up through the ranks, and as a songwriter, he's become more well known for that and wrote songs for other people, and even as a performer. And it took him a while to become more known as a performer. I'm not saying that has anything to do with his diction or whatever. It's just the fact that, I would like to understand his songs better. And a lot of people do is they, without thinking about it, they just get his, people's recordings and they're listening to the words or looking at the lyric jacket, and then they understand more what he's saying. So they just kind of fall into that. But something you might be interested in knowing is that I don't really think everybody necessarily has the ability or wants to be a soloist. And being a soloist is one thing. When you're standing, you're singing on your own, and that takes a lot of grit and strength, and that comes with practice. And if you really want to do that, then that's what you should focus on doing. But there's all kinds of legitimate singing out there, and people do all kinds of hobbies for singing. They do things professionally that are sometimes in choirs. And for me, it all started in choir. Actually, in high school, I just couldn't wait to get into choir in high school. And I had heard a choir perform at one time when we did a variety of schools got together, and this one choir from Stevenson, Washington was singing. They were doing some coolest things ever, taking the A train and all kind of things. Like, I was listening to them and thinking, man, these guys are good. And I want to get into something like that. And I listened to our high school choir and I said, man, I want to be a part of this. And you want to think, what does diction have to do with singing the choir? Everything. When you're singing by yourself, your diction is just you, and it's actually easier because you're just you and you're not trying to sing with 10 other people or whatever, 20 people, however many is in your choir. Because when you're singing, you got to sing the same word at the same time. It might be different harmonies, you're singing harmony notes together, you're not all singing the same note, but it has to be the same diction basically at the same time. And choirs are very precise about that. I had a really good choir teacher in Clark College in Vancouver, Washington, and he was very dynamic driven. I really understood more about the meaning, that dynamics, and also diction. And he had everybody just on a pinpoint when he would say the same thing, the same word, and we were singing things in Latin and English and you name it, but that was a really good understanding of what good singing really is. And when you hear people and they're in a choir and they're all singing on the same note, pronouncing the same word, it's exciting to hear that. And if you hear choirs out there sometimes, you can hear all kinds of things on YouTube, this, that, and the other thing. When you're choir singers from all over the world, just listen to their diction. It's like that's really what separates the men from the boys, as they say. When they have a really good diction, you can hear it. It's exciting. It makes a lot of sense to you, So anyway, that's a couple of examples I gave for addiction. And, listen to those two singers if you haven't done it already. Just, tell me about that, I have a website where these postings go, is Singerman USA, and that's on a blog page on the website, singermanusa.com. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is Singerman USA. And just find the ones where you see a picture of me on there, and that'll be the one. Google puts a whole bunch of things on that site. I don't know exactly why that is, but I try to delete some of those things because they put Singer sewing machines on there. Like, what the heck has that got to do with my singing anyway? But they do stuff like that anyway. You have to kind of wade through that, some of the stuff to find the singing. But anyway, I encourage anybody to get involved in practicing. It's like, if you really love singing, get involved in some way or another. Now, the fact is, there's a lot of community choirs and things like that. If you want to get into singing, you don't necessarily want to jump right into the soloist or whatever, singing in choir is a really fun thing because you get to do it with other people. And there's community choirs in your area probably if you're looking around. And I got involved in one called the Brahms Singers, I think it was. It was done by Bill Slocum. And it was all just a community of people. And it wasn't about making money or that kind of thing. It was people just getting together. And a lot of these were music educators. These were people who really knew their stuff. And it was good to sing around them too. And because, everybody was on point. I also got involved in the Portland Opera singing chorus. And there's something you can do as a profession. If you get good enough where you can sing in an opera chorus, you're getting pretty good. And that involves singing in languages and that kind of thing too. So that diction becomes significant because you're going to sing in languages and be precise at the same time. When you're singing in choirs like that, though, some of them are going to require auditions. And auditioning is a good thing, but some of those auditions, some choirs that are very professional are going to require sight singing. And that is something that is a whole different kind of bailiwick to get into. That whole thing they did in Sound of Music, that song, Though a deer, a female deer, a drop of golden sun. That is what they call solfege. And the one way people learn how to sight read is that's the French way of picking out notes and learning intervals and all that kind of thing. And that is something that, as a singer, it would give you a wonderful heads up on miles ahead of everybody else if you learn how to sight read. Because when you're going to audition for, good solid choirs and things like that, they're probably going to require that. And honestly, telling myself a little bit, I got to get into the Parliament Opera Chorus by invitation because they needed men for a production that involved the big men's chorus. And I was in, I could have stayed in, and I went, I want to pursue my solo career. And then later I came back and I thought, I'd like to get back in the chorus. And this time, I didn't know anybody in there I didn't know the chorus master and that kind of thing. I couldn't just shoe in like I had before, and they required sight singing. I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I'm a good, I can pick it up pretty fast kind of singer. If you play it for me, I got it like that. But to sit there and just pull a note out of my hat, that was not a strong suit for me. So yeah, I was so ashamed. I couldn't get back in the choir. I had been in already. If I had just stayed there, would have, done with it. But definitely something you can look into, and you'll find courses on that online about sight singing. And if that's something you want to pursue, that'll really strengthen you, particularly want to get in professional choirs and that kind of thing. Okay, so that pretty well covers it for diction. Like I said, listen to those examples, and I highly encourage you, if you want to get involved in singing, you find there's a group around. There's a whole variety of things. Like here in Las Vegas, there's a variety of men's groups, sometimes ladies groups. One of the things that's really nice too is that there's one of the variety of singings is called barbershop. And hey, that's older, what they call gaslight area stuff, but it is some really cool music. And sometimes they'll have specifically men's ones, and they'll have women's ones. Women sometimes are referred to as sweet Adelines, when the women get together and all sing together. But doing stuff like this is really good for your soul. Singing and getting out and singing with other people and that kind of thing is just a hobby even. And, if you bring something to the table because you've been working on your singing, and when you get there, they know you're not just, someone who just wants to sing, but you don't have any ability to do that. Well, they're not less inclined to take somebody on like that. So, develop some skills before you get there. But then, listen to some of the kind of music that they do and figure out something that they do that you can use to audition with, I like paddling Madeline home. I'll be paddling Madeline home. When I row a boat sometimes and somebody's named Madeline, I'll hum out that out a little bit, Anyway, so like I said, if you like what I'm doing here, and even if it's not just for yourself, but you find somebody who's working on singing and they want to improve their skills, they don't maybe have money to work with, and my subject and real hope and interest is that people who are trying to develop skills, that they forward this kind of a video over to them, invite them to my page, subscribe to the page, send them a link to the page, and we can kind of go down the checklist of all these variety of things that we're going to get into here. And like I said, just kind of focus on diction this time and use those for examples anyway. So, hey, I hope you're out there and you're enjoying yourself and starting to get some courage in singing. And like I said, report to volume number 2, start practicing some singing, start expanding your range, and hopefully you'll have some fun with this, huh? And give me a line from time to time. If you're interested in starting an audition with various this, that, and the other thing, give me a line from time to two. I might be able to help you with some of that, and you'll have to prepare. And you can send me those at my email is singermanusa5751 at gmail.com. Singermanusa5751 at gmail.com. Hey, till next time.